We will get started shortly after 6, but thank you all so much for joining us.
Hi, Kurt.
Hey, Beverly, how you doing?
Funny, I was trying to get you because I missed that meeting for the Halloween.
I need to call you. Liz said you dropped did you drop off the clown stuff?
Yeah, I dropped off the clown thing. I got to drop off the eyes. Okay. I want the eyes back, but I got some other stuff that I was going to drop off.
Awesome. Beverly, I'll try to give you a call tomorrow. You didn't miss yet. Still have more plans to do for sure.
Okay. When are we going to have another meeting?
I got to do an inventory of everything we have left from last year. And after I do that, I'll be ready to set up the next meeting so we can figure out exactly what we need to do.
Okay. Call me tomorrow, Kurt.
All right. I will.
All right.
All right. Welcome again. Welcome everyone who's coming in on the Zoom. Faith Ann, if you want to get the light, it's right there. Can everyone still see okay? Yeah. All right.
Hi, everyone.
Nope, I lost everything.
What's that?
Good evening, everyone.
I lost everything. I thought I was following it. I don't know.
Good evening. Welcome to everybody that's coming in. We're just going to give folks a few more minutes to get settled, and then we're going to get started.
I have a question. For people wanting to join the Zoom, do they use the link that you provided to the candidates? Is it the same or?
It's the same link.
Yes, it's the same.
They can't hear.
Okay. Thank you.
They can't hear me, right?
Hello.
Hey, Josie.
Hey, Josie, what's up?
Hey,
Hello, good
Algie.
evening.
Hi, Josie. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, Josie.
Hello.
Hello, am I in?
You're in.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, Yas.
Hello, beautiful people.
Hey.
What's up, Yas?
Oh, am I going on?
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
We'll give it a few more minutes before we formally get started, but thanks everyone for joining.
24.
I am Veronica Davis. Hey, before the meeting gets started, Kurt, I don't have to go over, I just only have to ask the question once I'm announced, correct? Which is how will you support whatever, right?
You can read the intro as well, the intro part of it, and then ask the question.
Okay.
And Matt, if you're able to share the screen with the agenda, if you have it handy, just in a minute or two, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. I'm pulling it up now.
All right, I'll give everyone another minute or two to join. I believe we might be waiting for 1 or 2 more council candidates. Then I'll go ahead and get started.
I'm only on once, correct? I want to make sure I'm not on here.
Yeah, I don't hear any echo or anything, so you should be
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Pretty standard review.
Hey, Merkel. Hey, Jen.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
Hello.
Hopefully the rain won't be with us a few more days like last week. That was a killer.
Algernon.
All right. I think for the sake of time, I can go ahead and get started. We're going to have a few minutes of intro before we get into any questions anyway. But welcome everyone to our City Council Candidates Forum. We're excited to be joined tonight by several candidates for the North Ward and at large. And I'd like to start out just by offering a quick thank you in advance to all of the candidates for attending tonight and giving us your time. We know how important municipal elections are for residents, for what we're trying to do as ETC. And we want East Trenton residents to be able to be as informed as possible when they're making their voting decisions. So again, thank you for being a part of this forum. We typically begin all of our meetings at ETC with a brief invocation, and we have a resident right next to me. Actually, her name is Miss Minnie Austell, and she'll be leading us with the invocation tonight. So I can turn the screen to her a bit, and Miss Minnie, whenever you're ready.
Gracious Lord, our most holy Father, we all come before you as empty pitchers before a full fountain. We want to thank you for this day and this meeting and this service. We thank you for the leaders. We ask that you come in tonight, Lord, in our hearts. Direct us, Father. Give us greater understanding. Most of all, give us respect toward one another. Keep us calm and set your approval on this service. We ask that you bless this community. Bring us together as you once have done before. Give us all strength to walk in oneness, in newness, in your most holy name. Let this service and this meeting be productive and continue to keep us on the straight and narrow path. Continue to walk with us, lead us, guide us, and order our footsteps as we become great leaders in your name for your glory and honor. We continue to give you the praise, glory, and all the hearts. Listeners say amen.
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 All right. Thank you so much, Miss Minnie. So next, I'll do a quick review of our code of conduct. I should actually haven't met yet. My name is Kurt Latuma. I'm a program coordinator with the East Trenton Collaborative.
All right, I got it.
For joining tonight. So ETC has a code of conduct that governs all our meetings and activities. It's pretty standard, but it just sets a baseline for how we feel we should treat each other. We know that everyone is going to have different opinions and perspectives for the best ways to move the city forward, but we ask that everyone respect each other's opinions and recognize that we're all here with the shared common goal of making East Trenton and the city as a whole a better place to live. So please allow everyone to speak during this meeting. Please try not to speak over each other, and please just try to treat everyone with respect. As everyone can probably tell, or if you can't now, you'll be able to, this is a hybrid setup meeting. So we have a few small group of residents here at the East Trenton Center who are joining us, and then we have several participants on Zoom. And given that we do have this set up, we ask that everyone on the Zoom please try to keep yourselves muted, especially when you're not speaking, and please just try to be aware of any potential background noise. If at some point during the meeting you find yourself muted, it's not because we don't like you; it's probably because there's just some background noise and we had to do it. And that same goes for everyone here at the center. Please try to keep any side noise to a minimum so that it doesn't interfere with what is going on the Zoom. Welcome. And now I just have a few other housekeeping items to go through for the specifics of this meeting before we can get on to the more exciting parts. So this is set up as a forum. This is not a debate style meeting, so we're not expecting candidates to be going back and forth or anything like that. All candidates have been sent copies of the questionnaire that was put together by our wonderful Civic Engagement Community Organizing Committee ahead of time. And that's the questionnaire that we'll be using for this meeting. We're going to ask that all candidates try to keep their responses to between 1 and 3 minutes. We want to be mindful of everyone's time tonight, and we want to be fair as well. So hopefully I won't have to interject anyone, but if I do, again, it's just because I'm trying to make sure that we're being fair and keeping time appropriately. For also, in terms of the actual flow, we're going to be going in alphabetical order once we get to the question portion by last name. And then we're going to rotate. So essentially the candidate who answers first is going to go to the back of the line, and we're going to rotate that way. We'll also be rotating between having the North Ward candidates answer first, and then the at-large candidates, and then we will switch that order as well. Next, I can have our ETC Program Director, Caitlin Fair, give some brief introductory words. Then I'll pass it over to our Civic Engagement Committee members and City Council candidates for more formal introductions. And after that, we'll go through the questions on the questionnaire. And hopefully we'll be able to conclude with an open question portion if time allows. With that, Caitlin, I can go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kurt. Welcome, everyone. I just want to say that I am so very excited to see so many folks on this call and also at the center.
Recording in progress.
We are, thank you. We are going to be recording the meeting, which is something that I wanted to mention so that we can post this for folks who may not have been able to attend the live session. I know that there are some conflicting events in the city this evening. But as I'm sure you all know personally, civic engagement and civic education is something that's very important to me and is also very important to the East Trenton Collaborative, that we are a conduit for educating and providing access to information about our local government. And so we want to make sure that anything that we do is accessible, anything we do that to that end is accessible to folks, even if they're not able to be with us in person. So we will be recording. I do want to thank those of you who made the time to come out and be with us live tonight. We're so very grateful for that, and we're grateful for the opportunity to be able to host this session. I see that Tony is on, and that just makes me so happy. So for those of you who don't know, Tony Mendias, our former community organizer, he recently moved on to a new opportunity, but he did a tremendous amount of legwork to put this event and past events similar to this together. So I just noticed his name, and I'm very happy that he's able to be with us this evening. And I'm so grateful for all the work that he did to put this together. So I don't want to belabor the point. We have lots of great folks to hear from this evening. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here. And we will get to the reason for the evening.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. Next, we'll have our Civic Engagement Committee members introduce themselves. Before they do, I just want to give them all a huge shout out, and Tony as well. We wouldn't be able to put this together without our Civic Engagement Committee members. They met several times to put together this questionnaire to make sure everything will go smoothly tonight. So a huge shout out to all our Civic Engagement Committee members for their time and all their energy for this process. With that, we can probably just go in order, so we can have Kim, Kathy, Faith Ann, and then Veronica.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Booker. I am a resident of East Trenton, and I am excited to get to meet all the candidates and hear how their viewpoints are with the specific issues that we have in our community. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kathy Bellamy. I am also a member of the ETC, and I am looking forward to your answers to all our questions and concerns that we have. Thank you.
My name is Faith Ann Pearson. I live at Sherman Avenue. I've been coming to this center for several years now. I'm on most all the committees, and I am glad that we've got these people on because it's very important that these people vote for the proper people in city council. Thank you.
I'm Veronica Davis. I'm from St. Joe's Avenue, part of East Trenton Collaborative, and I'm so glad.
Is she frozen?
Yeah, Ms. Davis.
Glad that you chose.
You cut out for just a second, Miss Veronica.
My name is Veronica. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Veronica Davis. I'm on St. Joe's Avenue. I'm part of EPC, and I'm so proud that you came out to answer these questions with us. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Davis, and all our committee members. Next, we can have our city council candidates introduce themselves. We're going to start with the North Ward candidates. Divine Allah, I'm not sure if you're here, but you can go first if you are, and then we'll have Merkle Cherry, followed by Algernon Ward and Jennifer Williams. Mr. Allah, are you here with us? All right, I'm not hearing anything, so then we can go ahead and turn it over to Merkle Cherry for a quick intro.
Make sure I unmute myself. Good evening, everyone. And I want to thank the East Trenton Collaborative and everyone who was involved in putting this together. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak and share some of my reasons for being a North Ward Council candidate. I'm not sure, am I supposed to move forward from there or just introduce myself?
We can stick to introduction for now.
Okay.
But thank you. And I believe next we can have Algernon. Oh, Algernon, you're muted.
Let's try it again. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me at the East Trenton Collaborative Meeting, a community forum. It's important that we all are aware of the issues that are surrounding our beloved North Ward. And I'm glad to be here tonight to talk with you about those issues.
All right, thank you, Algernon. And then Jennifer Williams, you can take it next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Williams, and I'd like to thank everyone from East Trenton Collaborative for putting this forum together. I know from talking to many neighbors how well regarded you are by folks in the North Ward and East Trenton. I originally grew up in East Trenton myself. I was born at St. Francis and grew up over by Junior too. And I'm really looking forward to hearing all the questions tonight. Enjoyed filling out the survey. It brought back some really good questions that we all need to talk about together. And I'm really happy to be here with you tonight. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Next, we can move on to the at-large candidates. The order for this I have is Josie Edwards, Yasminelli Gonzalez, then Taiwanda Terry Wilson.
Hi, my name is Josie Edwards. I am running for city council at large. I'm a lifelong resident here in the city of Trenton. And I just want to say thank you so much for East Trenton Collaborative for organizing this very important candidate forum. This is a very important election coming up. And I know we say this every time, but this is the most important election coming up. So thank you all for being here too.
Thank you. Next, Yasminelli, if you'd like to go.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you, East Trenton Collaborative, for also hosting this. I share the same sentiments as most of us. This is very instrumental. This election is critical for everyone, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak in front of you all today.
All right, and then we can conclude with Taiwanda. If you're ready, you can take it.
Good evening, everyone. I too would like to thank the East Trenton Collaborative for presenting this opportunity for us to come before you as candidates. This forum is very necessary so that residents can make an informed and engaged decision. This election is really pivotal. And as I look around the forum, I'm really happy to see the diversity that is represented on this call, because that is what Trenton is. So I am Tawanda Terry Wilson, and I would like to be one of your next selections for Trenton City Council at large to move our city forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then with that, I can turn it over to Kim Booker, who's going to kick us off with some health, safety, and COVID-related questions.
Thank you, Kurt. Let's see here. I thought I was ready, guys. My eyes are not as strong as they used to be. Okay, so with the health and safety COVID concerns, COVID is an ongoing public health safety concern, and if elected, how will you help the city of Trenton deal with future COVID or public health threats? And how will you show your support in health safety initiatives here in the city of Trenton? And I guess we're starting with North Ward, correct, Kurt?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Cherry.
Okay, when I was in elementary school, I wanted C to be early. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Good evening. So thank you for the question. I mean, as with any public health concern, it's important to ensure that the decisions you're making are based on the sound and most current expert information. And I will work with fellow council members and the city's administration to partner with the healthcare professionals and organizations such as Capitol Health, the City of Trenton's Department of Health, Human Services, the State of New Jersey's Department of Health, Mercer County, Henry J. Austin Health Center, and as well as others to assist in providing the most accurate information in a timely fashion to the Trenton residents. And sometimes I think that's lacking when it comes to providing services and information to our residents and to us as citizens of Trenton. In addressing those challenges that are predominant in the communities like ours that sometimes restricts access is also a priority for me. Service delivery methods which provide easy access to and for the residents is key. And working with the key players to develop some seamless delivery systems is critical. Trenton residents, they need to know about services, but just as importantly, they need to have access and availability of those services. If you can know that a service exists and it could be the greatest service in the world, but if you can't get to it, you don't have access to it, you don't have transportation, it's not near you, then it's as if the service doesn't exist for you. And I want to ensure that that is not an obstacle for the residents in our communities. And along with conversations with the community and the provision of some preventive healthcare information and services to the citizenry in the city, that's also critical. And inspections will have something to do with those things too. The inspection department can have a significant role in helping to police some of the ordinance violations that lead to unhealthy conditions. And my support will be demonstrated by consistently advocating for health safety initiatives and by providing a vote for responsible financial sustainability when items come before me as a council member.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry. And I have Algernon Ward next.
So first of all, we have to see whether the committee, and I think.
Sorry about that. You've just touched upon probably what is the most fundamental issue here in the city of Trenton, because without good health, you don't have anything else. Many of you don't know that I spent a career of 34 years in the New Jersey Department of Health as a research scientist. And that has given me the ability to understand the ins and outs of what the public health delivery system should be. I have to tell you that Trenton, in the last COVID-19 outbreak, has suffered the most deaths and cases of COVID-19 in the entire Mercer County. And as a concerned citizen, when I tried to access the services in the city, the county, and even the state, they were more interested in finger pointing and blaming each other rather than delivery of services. I myself had to put in a lawsuit against the city of Trenton to force them to do universal testing. I did not prevail in the lawsuit, but they in fact instituted universal testing later. One of the impediments that we found was that in the beginning, you had to have a subscription in order to be tested. No other county had that restriction. I worked at the county level to try to get to remove them. It took them 4 months to remove the prescription requirement to get a COVID test. Now, fortunately, since that time, you can get a home COVID test and you can get one at every drugstore. But in the midst of the pandemic, the city itself became an impediment to health delivery services itself. So if I'm on city council, I'm certainly going to look into the health department first, because that is the number one concern of every Trenton citizen. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything else. The rest of it doesn't matter if you're not protecting the lives of the people. There are several health delivery services that we have with the city of Trenton. We want to be sure that they operate together and that they provide the kind of services that's necessary. One of the big problems we ran into was access. I propose that we have health delivery services in any housing complex with more than 100 people in it. What I'm saying, there should be a nurse office or a nurse station at every large housing complex. And further, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, we have fire stations in every ward in the city. They, because they have the presence of EMS there, will be perfect places for health delivery services in each ward of the city without people having to travel far distances. Those are things that are already existing. These are things that are already existing, and so we don't have to invest a lot of money to do this. And finally, the personnel at the Trenton Health Department. Given the recent developments, and I will only call them disgraceful developments that we've seen in our health department, it's time to clean house. We have to install professionals in the health department that are there and concentrating on doing their jobs. One of the big problems we have was contact tracing. That whole setup that we have here in the city of Trenton was not effective in order to stop the spread of disease. And we have to relook at that and hire the people that we need in order for that critical piece of work to be done without delay. So I'm going to be taking a very close analytical look at the Department of Health here in Trenton and make sure that's secure and move on to the other issues that confront us here in the city of Trenton. But the health department is probably, it's not the most widely known about or understood about, but it's probably the most important department we have here in the city of Trenton.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And next we have Ms. Williams, Jennifer Williams.
Thank you very much, Ms. Booker. So right off the bat, I would be showing my support, and one of the things I'm going to do regarding dealing with future COVID or public health threats is I think we need to link better with the state of New Jersey, particularly in the Department of Disaster and Terrorism, because they have a lot more access to federal funding and things that happen regarding this. And this is a disaster that happened that was unexpected. And quite frankly, our city and our county was caught flat-footed. And our city leaders, as well as other towns, their leaders, had to really get things going and force the county to respond to this crisis. And that's something that we can never do again. One of the things that happened through this crisis is we saw nationwide the disparities in health, particularly in urban areas and particularly in the African-American community. So what we need to do moving forward is take the lessons that we've learned tragically through many deaths, through the suffering of many people who either, if they were able to be helped in the hospital, hopefully came home, but the families, the friends, the coworkers, every one of the people who died, that trauma still exists, and we haven't healed from that trauma. And that's why we also, and I would fight for this in city council, we need to have more mental health services in this city. And that includes everything from addictions treatment to people who've suffered through traumatic events regarding crime, to fire, etc. There are so many things that we need to help with even children who have gone through the COVID in the schools. It's not too much to ask for our government to respond to where the people really need it. And where they need it most right now seems to be in mental health. Once we solve that, we also have other things we need to handle. We need to handle the water quality in our city. That's something that has not been happening for roughly 45 years. That's something I believe we should do immediately. And I think we can do it without selling our waterworks, without losing control of our waterworks. And that's something we will work out over time. And I give my commitment as a council member that we will solve the waterwork problem. Anything that council can do, and I'm confident in some of the folks that I've met and during this campaign who are also running, I believe that the water issue will be handled in the next several years. But beyond that, regarding larger health issues, I think one of the things we need to do is push more strongly on our state government. And one of the things that we could do is have our state government create tax credits for companies of larger than 100 employees who would need to come into urban areas, and they should provide basic health screenings. If they're going to do business in our state, we need to have them help with trying to provide better health in our state. And particularly in this group of companies, these group of corporations, as we're finding out with St. Francis, it's not just a medical center, it's not just the hospital, it's a business. Well, these organizations also need to provide basic healthcare screenings in our cities. And I would like the state of New Jersey to make sure that that happens in order for these same organizations to get licensure for their health facilities. Finally, to be prepared for the next crisis, to be prepared for anything that could happen in the future. I echo what the two previous gentlemen had said in their points, but we need to take it one step further. We need to mandate that these things happen. One actual observation that I made and my family made in traveling to go buy food to stock up at the beginning of this crisis. If you went to areas in other towns, supermarkets in other towns, they were running out of food, they were running out of milk, they were running out of a lot of things, and you saw a lot of people wearing masks. When you came back into Trenton, if you went to some of our supermarkets here or some of the bordering supermarkets in like Ewing that were frequented by many Trenton customers, many folks in Ewing also, you didn't see people wearing masks. You saw more fully stocked shelves. That immediately told me that the word wasn't getting out about this crisis and how important it was to respond and respond quickly and safely. I would like to think that the next time this happens, that we've learned our lesson and we can go forward by making every Trentonian safer, no matter where they live, no matter what they look like or who they are. And that's my promise to the voters of the North Ward, that I will work to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. It looks like we have Mr. Allah, so I will go back and give him an opportunity. Did I see his name in the participants?
Yeah, it looked like he joined.
Okay. So I would like to give Mr. Allah an opportunity to answer the first question. Can you unmute yourself and let me know if you need me to repeat the question? Kurt, can you tell if he's muted?
I think he is. Mr. Allah, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Yeah, maybe we move on, and then Mr. Allah, if you are able to unmute, we can circle back to you.
Okay. Well, I will hand it. Well, I have the second question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we just need to get the at-large too.
Yes, now with the at-large, I have Yasminelli Gonzalez.
Hello, good evening, everyone. For the first question in regards to our public health, we all know that access to healthcare is vital and it's a critical issue that needs our attention in the city. Many of our Trenton residents do not receive quality healthcare, and especially now with us having another hospital closing, it's unfortunate that we have to go through that. And I feel like the COVID-19 pandemic has affected many residents, Trenton residents in particular in this county, and expose the many disparities that we face. So, such as public health threats must be addressed as they come. We need to be more proactive and have us be prepared. Congratulations. I want to thank the city of Trenton for opening up the health department clinic where they actually are touching the lives of our residents here in the city of Trenton on a daily basis. Our clinic has given out many vaccinations to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 and also of the monkeypox, currently the monkeypox. And if elected, as the council person, we know that budgeting is key, and making sure that we continue to properly fund some of these programs and health clinics and such as what we have already in the city of Trenton. But it's all about just being proactive, and hopefully if elected, we can have a council that will work collectively to make sure that some of these things are addressed and funding is allocated appropriately to those areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we'll have, I don't know if Michael Rinaldo is in attendance.
He was unable to make it this evening.
Oh, okay.
He had a personal conflict that came up at the last minute.
Okay, so now I have Miss Tawanda Terry Wilson.
Thank you so much. That's a great question. So COVID-19 has been added to one of the many community-centered health and financial concerns that Trentonians have been battling for years. This pandemic has shown us the disparities that happens to communities such as Trenton, and I will support our city's health department in any way that I can that makes sense. I want to make sure that we are in compliance with any CDC laws and regulations, any state regulations that are put in place, any policies or procedures that the governor sees fit. We also need to make sure that we are talking to and listening to the residents to find out how they are coping with and are impacted or affected by pandemics. So this is one of the first times we have seen something of this magnitude. And so we have now been able to put some systems in place, and we need to make sure that going forward, the things that we have in place are ready to be rolled out. My support will be shown in listening to the residents, as I always do. I want to listen to their concerns. I want to hear their recommendations and actions. I want to hear what our health department's recommendations are, what their professional analysis are. And we need to make sure that we're looking at the findings and researches of things that have been successful and things that have not been successful. So the key to navigating anything is to have an understanding of what we can do, how we can get it done, what we can do better, what worked and what didn't work. And I think if we put those things into practice, I think that we will be better prepared for the next rise in this pandemic or the next steps that we need to take should it rear its ugly head again and and cause such strain and trauma as it did. Let's see what else I'm gonna do. We want to make sure that we are reviewing and or creating, again, policies to achieve safe Trenton. We want to make sure that residents have access to what needs to be done, whether that's wearing masks, whether that's finding out where to go to get vaccinated if they choose. For our residents that may choose not to get vaccinated, we want to make sure that they understand what their options are and how we can move forward in whatever family decisions we decide to make to keep Trenton safe. Thank you so much for the time and the question.
Thank you, Ms. Terry Wilson. And next we'll have Josie Edwards.
Hi, this is a great question. As an employee of the federal government and Congress, we dealt with COVID directly. I dealt with it on the ground in Trenton with being the liaison for the Congresswoman, with reporting what was happening in the city and advocating for, resources to come into the community. So that's exactly what I plan to continue doing as a city council member, is working with other levels of government and our state legislature as well as our county to bring more resources to the community. Trenton is a city that is impoverished. We lack access to adequate health care. With the closing of Mercer Hospital over a decade ago, we no longer even provide prenatal health care or any type of health care for women that are pregnant. So now they have to go outside of the city. Now we're facing another hospital closure, which is a heart hospital. So with these services constantly leaving our community, we need to be looking into other creative ways that we can bring resources in here. So just like how Trenton had opened up the health clinic on Olden Avenue, for examples like that, we should open up more locations around the city so that we're providing these services directly in the community, because like Merkel said, the transportation is an issue. It's not that these services aren't available. In some ways they aren't, but in things like COVID, it's the access to it. It's how do you get there? How can I afford it once I get there? So looking into ways how we can fund free services so that we can make sure as many residents or has access to it as possible. So we have to take into consideration that our city is 75% low income and 40% impoverished, below the poverty line. So we have to provide ways for those people to gain access to healthcare. So I also wanted to touch on the fact that as a city council member, not only making the right decisions once things are presented to us, but increasing our constituent services outreach too, helping the administration to reach as many residents, every last single household that we have in the city of Trenton, to make sure they have this information. Because we have to realize that even though the administration is large, they may not be able to reach everyone. So as city council members, we are the ones that are directly in the community, and we should be spreading this information as much as possible, using our platforms on these city council meetings to spread this information so that more people have access to it. So that's about it for me.
Thank you so much. And we will give the opportunity back to Mr. Allah. Are you available, Mr. Allah? I'm not sure if you're muted.
Okay, I think you just unmuted.
Hello.
Mr. Allah, would you need the question repeated?
Okay, yeah, we're good.
Would you like to respond to this first question?
Are you able to hear us, Mr. Allah?
Yes, now we're good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Did you want to respond to the first question?
Yes. How would I help during the COVID? If there's another threat?
Yeah. Did you want if you'd like, Kim can repeat the whole question.
Well, I can see it. It's in front of me. But
okay. You can. Okay.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
You don't have it in front of me. Yes, I would respond to that one by offering or making sure that there's a collaborative effort between city council and any one of the local and regional medical centers to do something to have the residents who are directly affected by whatever the threat is, mainly our senior citizens, and then working towards the middle. And then I myself will be able to offer services that I'm already involved in, such as outside at parks, making sure people are still getting fresh air that they may need, because everyone wants to take one route to dealing with that threat. It may be different the next time. So we just have to make sure that there's a direct collaborative effort to get our seniors first taken care of, because they're most vulnerable, and making sure that people are still getting information about healthy practices, whether at home, whether they still have to go to work, and just folks who want to still spend time outside. You know, we have to look at it from every avenue and not just the way that it was done last time, because I think a lot of people were more affected by being shut down than the actual threat itself. So we have to be more mindful of that going into that next time as a city council. Now that we have a few ingredients to work with, we'll know how to approach it next time. So it's not a, so much fear based behind it. And that's how I would approach that. And I would work with any city council member. And like I said, any of the local and regional hospitals, federally, or, folks who have the expertise in handling from a medical perspective.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So the next question that I have is concerning lead safety. And lead safety is an important topic of discussion in our neighborhood and in our city as a whole. And East Trenton Collaborative has been a lead hub that advocates for lead safety initiatives in Trenton. One program that ETC has been supporting is the lead service line replacement program offered by the city. While earlier phases of this program have been completed, there's no word or support for the next phase from the city council. Will you as a council member be willing to support initiatives to help get the lead out of Trenton? And would you be in support for providing additional funding to address lead and lead-related health issues in the city of Trenton? I will start. I was out of order before, and I gave Ms. Yasminelli Gonzalez the first opportunity, but I should have started with Ms. Josie Edwards. So I will start with Ms. Josie Edwards on this one.
Okay. I just want to say that I know the effects of lead, right? As a mother of two, when your child is born, shortly after they're tested for lead. And I think you're tested for it during your pregnancy as well, if I could remember that long ago. But the effects of lead are so bad on people that they started a whole entire campaign to get the lead out of paint. And then the state has this policy where landlords have to inform the tenants of whether they're knowledgeable of whether paint exists in the property or not. So I don't understand, with knowing all of this, the effects that lead has on the brain, the body, the nervous system, the aggression that it causes, the health issues that it causes, delays in your mental abilities, your learning abilities. It has so many different effects. Now, for us to have lead pipes and be knowledgeable of this information and drag our feet, and we have council members that literally say no to removing these lead pipes, is unacceptable. So as a city council member, I would vote responsibly on approving projects to remove these lead lines so that our community has safe water. Now, we have one of the best filtration plants. We have some of the best quality water in the country, top 5, if I'm not mistaken, according to my research. But it's the pipes that the water goes through that sometimes makes our water unsafe. And we have seen over the last few years, even before this body of council was elected, we have had issues with Trenton Waterworks, with our department, with other council members not knowing their roles and duties, because city council serves as the board of Trenton Waterworks. This council that we see here found that out a little late into their term. So if you don't really have an understanding of what your role is, you can't really vote responsibly. So I take pride in doing the research necessary to make these accurate decisions on whether we need to approve these types of projects and how it would benefit our community. So I do want to work with my future fellow council members, just speaking it into existence, to vote responsibly and work with the administration to make sure that we're up to date on all of our protocols with Trenton Waterworks, all of our safety measures and things like that. So, and I also want to say, for the record, I do not support a state takeover, and I do not support the privatization or selling of Trenton Waterworks. That is our most valuable asset that we have in the city. It's a city-owned utility. It brings in a big portion of our revenue, and without it, we would lose so much employment. If we were to sell Trenton Waterworks, that is one of our most largest employing departments in the city, we would lose out on all of that because it would no longer be restricted just for Trenton residents. Anyone in the state could work there. So we would be at risk of losing a huge chunk of revenue and a huge chunk of our employment. And we have to think about our residents. So while I do appreciate the state stepping in with the Department of Environmental Protection to make sure that, when they do their survey and evaluation of Trenton Waterworks, that we're following these proper procedures to make sure we have clean water. And I'm looking forward to, working on the initiatives when I'm in office to remove the lead pipes and make sure that every resident in the Trenton knows about this so that they know that, the water may not be safe in their neighborhood and that they can advocate. And so that I can advocate on their behalf for city council to get these things done. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Ms. Yasminelli Gonzalez.
Hey, good evening once again, and thank you for that question because it's very, very vital to our city. We all know the effects that the lead has in our water. It causes damage, slows growth and development, and especially as an educator, in our children, we see it a lot more affecting them as well, not taking away from anyone else, but I experience the behaviors and I see some of the effects of it. And of course, as a council member, I would support the initiatives to continue this. This is common sense. It affects all of us. It affects our safety, our quality of life. And it is completely unfortunate that we did have the state come in and become, overseeing our management because they're not completely taken over, but it's they're overseeing the management currently as of yesterday or today. We would love to be, I would love for us to be self-sufficient, but the reality of it is that currently what we're experiencing now is an issue that council needs to collaboratively work with our administration so we don't have these things and we need to combat those types of issues that are affecting us daily. Like I said, we're all affected by it. We all deserve clean drinking water, clean waters to bathe and cook and everything else. So I would say I would definitely be in support of any initiative to continue that the lead service line replacement initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will go to Ms. Tawanda Terry Wilson.
Thank you. So yes, as a council member, I will definitely be able to support initiatives to help get the lead out of Trenton. If people don't know, lead is a very, very horrible thing. It does really horrible things to our bodies. So in our seniors and in our adults, it can cause cardiovascular problems. It can reduce the functions of our kidneys. It can cause hypertension. It can cause anemia and nerve damage. If people don't know, in children, it also affects the development of their brain, right? And their nervous systems. High doses of lead exposure in our children may cause symptoms that aren't necessarily seen immediately, right? And when they do appear, they can be very severe. The most common signs and symptoms of lead poisoning in children includes abdominal pain and vomiting. In my childhood home that I grew up in, I'll never forget, we were tested for lead in our fingers as students, and they found a high dosage in my finger. And so the city of Trenton actually had to come out to our home and ensure that we made the necessary modifications, because the lead was used in paint going back a few years ago. So EPA, or the Department of Environmental Protection, they have since changed the laws. So the first thing that I would do to make sure that we're protecting residents in the city of Trenton, when we have people who move into homes, it's imperative that those inspections are done. When landlords re-rent units to new people, we need to make sure that these houses have been inspected and are in compliance with the federal requirements. As a student at Trenton Central High School, I can remember when we had to have some of our water fountains taped up with tape because the lead was so bad coming in to our school buildings. So for me, I'm always going to say that both the physical and mental health of Trentonians matter to me. And I feel that it is imperative that we address the lead issue in our city. If we don't revitalize the health and wellness of our residents, we don't revitalize the city anywhere, full stop. So yes, I will definitely be on board with working with my city council colleagues, the state, and whoever else we need to partner to make sure that we are keeping Trentonians safe. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you so much for your response. And we will go to, sorry, I thought I had my ringer turned off. Let's see, we have we're going to the North Ward now. So we'll start with Mr. Allah.
Okay, what everybody said is definitely important. The effects of it have reared their head over the years. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we look at what has worked in other areas in the state. You know, Newark, New Jersey is a perfect example of how we can address the issue of lead right here in the city of Trenton. But we don't want to, again, make it a, create this boogeyman. We just have to be smart and work with those who are the experts. No one coming into city council will be an expert in that particular field per se, but we can make sure that we have them at the table anytime we want to address the issue of lead. Either we work to create initiatives so the whole community can be involved and have a hearsay and speak their thoughts, or we create initiatives from city council. I just don't like the whole issue of creating this monster. We know the effects. We just have to be straightforward and learn how to bring in those who are needed, and definitely look at it from a budget issue also. Are we going to be spending more money to bring people in to do something that can be handled right from department heads? Or are we going to sit down with folks and make sure we're doing the due diligence to use the folks who are already here to make the thing happen the way it's supposed to?
Thank you. All right, so next for the North Ward, I have Mr. Merkle Cherry.
Again, thank you for the question. I just want to revisit quickly. I have 3.5 minutes from what I understand, the first question. And I agree with many of the things that were mentioned by the previous, by other candidates, collaborative efforts. But I'd also like to say that I've been doing those things. We've been bringing the services to the community, to where they are. We've worked with the school districts. We have a school-based initiative that's focused and primarily around healthcare and being proactive and reaching out to parents and children. We've worked with faith-based organizations. We work with the other health organizations. So many of the things that we're hearing this evening, we've done. I've been a part of it as a COO of a healthcare facility. Regarding lead, and I will share, many of the candidates previously have mentioned some of the hazards and dangers of lead. And I know Ms. Edwards indicated that the actual source of the water in the city of Trenton is good. The Delaware River is clean. We do need to address some of the challenges as it relates to the lead service lines. And I can tell you that I'll be enthusiastic with that responsibility and vetting initiatives to rid our North Ward and our city of lead contaminants. It's a part of any wise and sensible health safety program. And so we have to be aggressive. We got to push. We have to prod government entities and others too to provide funding and resources to get rid of and eliminate the lead service lines. We have to support lead service line replacement, and we should be aggressive in our efforts in exploring opportunities and options for funding. And they are there. We just have to work together. We have to include the residents. We have to include the administration, other council members whom I will be working with, to ensure that those things are taking place. It's a vital health issue that impacts so many different aspects of our community. And it will be a priority of mine as the North Ward council person. And it shouldn't even be a request to these organizations. It should be a demand that resources are provided for us to replace the lead service lines, as well as addressing not just the lead that may be coming as a result of the service lines, but other areas where that's a concern. I will tell you again, a significant effort to address any type of lead contaminants, and that's via education, training, and the service delivery. We have to work together with the community organizations like ETC, and you guys have done a wonderful job. And I know that that's a priority for your organization. We can then positively have an impact on these things that are affecting our neighborhoods. I was going to say the community, but it's our neighborhoods, our communities. The inspections department has a significant role to play in helping to monitor and enforce the ordinances. And I think that there should be a report from the department regarding any something that documents the efforts that they are taking to ensure that landlords are adhering to the codes and ordinances that they're supposed to abide by. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry. And I'm doing a time check. We're at 6:59, so I want to kind of speed up the process so we can get through all three sections. But I'm loving this. I'm taking copious notes. Look, guys, so you guys are really giving me a lot. I am enjoying this. But we're gonna move on, and the next person will be Mr. Algernon Ward.
Yes, lead service line replacement program was one of the forward-thinking programs that we were initiating here in the city of Trenton. I myself worked on the program. I had a crew of college students, and we were going door to door, signing people up for the lead service line replacement program. I was pretty happy with the program as it was constructed at the time, and me with some crews of students, we signed up hundreds of people to have their service line replaced. Why the city council inextricably stopped the program? I can't answer that question because someone said it earlier, it's just common sense. And I'm glad to hear many of my fellow council candidates are familiar with the neurological damage that lead can do to especially developing children and how it's been linked with aggression and what damage it can do to liver, kidneys. Lead is not good to have in the human body. And Trenton being an older town, many of the houses that were built in its formative years contain lead or galvanized pipe. But fortunately, the Trenton can support a ongoing lead service line replacement program because it's not funded directly out of the city budget. The water company itself or bonding issues can fund this kind of a thing. But we can do a more aggressive job in replacing the lead service line program. I'm getting tongue-tied on that. Lead service line replacement programs. ETC has been working on this. I know Sherelle was doing some work on this, and I'm sure we're going to support everything we can do this because we're talking about the health of our people, bottom line. And so, yes, you would have 100% enthusiastic support from me to make sure that we get the lead out of Trenton, as well as any other kind of initiative that is going to improve the health of the people. And it's also been pointed out that Trenton water itself is not the real source of the problem in many cases. It's the point source that the pipes it has to go through, which the homeowner is responsible for, by the way. But people, these things can be expensive. So the lead service program actually helped them fund that and gave them discounts. And it was a worthwhile program. So definitely I would continue with that to make sure that our people are looked out for.
Thank you, Algernon. And next we'll have Jennifer Williams.
I'm really happy to see this question because this is an issue that has kind of fallen to the wayside throughout the city. And I would 100% unequivocally support removing the lead pipes, the fixtures that come into our homes as soon as possible. And that's something we need to push the city to announce the next and all subsequent phases of this because, quite frankly, it's taken too long. This has been a stop and start project from probably about, 2016 when these problems first started emerging and even earlier. And as someone who personally, I have a relative who grew up at and near Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and was sickened by the water and unfortunately passed away due to illness for that. This is very important to me, let alone my family, my own children. We all drink this water. So this is something that has to get done. I think we need to look at ways to accelerate the completion of this project, whether that's incentivizing the contractors that have been hired to do that. It's time that this gets completed. And it's also time for the city to release its plans, release its schedules, because none of us should be waiting. None of us should be having to go forward wondering, okay, well, this water smells this morning because I'm brushing my teeth and I can smell something. We need to fix all this across the board, but particularly with the lead pipes. And alternately with that, or actually consequently with that, we do need to also attack the lead paint problem. I had several neighbors tell me about lead paint that they believe that they have in their properties, and I referred them to government entities to reach out, and even aisles to see if they could get tested. And that's something in year 2022 we should not be having to worry about. I remember seeing commercials on television for that back in the 70s and the 80s, and this would be a problem that's already taken care of. And we shouldn't be behind Newark or any other city in New Jersey on handling all this, and we can handle it. The neurological damage that can be done to children, particularly all the other respiratory issues, health issues that Terry mentioned, they are all true. And that's something that we have to prevent. It's very hard to treat these things after they happen, but we have to prevent them. And the only way to prevent them is to remove lead throughout the city. Finally, what I would like to say in addition to that is I think we need to also consider the quality of our air, particularly in certain parts of the North Ward by Enterprise Avenue, the Mulberry Street area, because several neighbors, people I've actually even heard, for a long time, heard about different smells, different issues, and the asthma rates that seem to be higher in that area. So that's another thing I would fight for that city council is to make sure that we have our health department. We get state authorities to come in, DEP, if they need to be involved with, to test the air and also test the soil. When as being a member of zoning board, when all these solar panels were installed in the Coalport section, the neighbors came out to our hearing and they expressed a lot of concerns about the dust being kicked up by trucks, trucks removing dirt, etc. And they're all valid concerns. And fortunately, no issues resulted from that as far as anyone knows. But these are things where when the neighborhood, when the citizens want to know what's happening and if they are going to be healthy and safe during a project and afterwards, they better be able to get their answers. And we can make that happen with the new city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's it for me. I am going to hand it off to the next person to pose the questions to our candidates.
Thank you, Kim. And Kathy, real quick, just before you get started, thank you, candidates, for such well thought out answers. Fortunately, time is getting a little slim on us. So if you could, again, try to keep your answers to between 1 and 3 minutes. I don't want to have to cut anyone off, but I'm going to start monitoring the time a bit more. But yes, thank you all. And Kathy, whenever you're ready, you can take it.
Okay. Good evening. I'm reading some reports from the Traffic Safety Committee. Many of our safety concerns revolve around the roads in our neighborhood. Historically, it has been difficult to make traffic safety improvements in our neighborhoods due to its unique layout and the required involvement of many levels of government, such as the city, the county, and the state. This problem has been brought up several times, and every level of government seems to pass the responsibility to the next person. My question to the panel is, how will you support the work of the county, state, and city administration to bring changes and traffic safety improvements to East Trenton? I'm going to start off with the North Ward, and the first one will be Mr. Algernon Ward.
Thank you for the question, and it's an important one. One of the things that has vexed the East Trenton for many years was the lack of a off-ramp from Route 1 north. If we had that, it could divert a lot of traffic that could winds up on the streets, and it would also give access to the people in the businesses in the industrial zones so that they don't have to get on Clinton Avenue, and it would lessen the traffic on Olden Avenue and Mulberry Streets if we had an off-ramp of Route 1 North. I would certainly advocate for that through the Department of Transportation and all of our city organs. The issue with the county, I've rarely understood why the city and the county road maintenance is so separated. I've seen the plows come up to the city border, turn around and go back, and the city has to plow its own roads and go back. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We should be able to divide that work and have the roads at least plowed. But there was a transportation study a few months ago with the Delaware Joint Toll Bridge Commission. They commissioned a company to come in and study the traffic patterns in the East Ward or the North Ward. And they gave some very important information. I was a part of that focus group, and I think some of you were as well. They had some very interesting findings about where we could improve the traffic and safety flow in the East Trenton. See, I grew up in North Trenton, and East Trenton is where the building is, and I always get it mixed up because it's now the North Ward. Anyway, they made some very interesting findings about how to improve traffic safety. I would certainly be in favor of implementing those speed bumps where they're necessary, and certainly road improvements. I think there's a larger conversation to be had with the county itself, so that we may have to share services with the county in the long run to take care of the roads. That's something that's on the horizon called shared services, and we may end up having to look at that. But certainly, traffic safety, Olden Avenue is a mess. We certainly have to find alternatives to using that. That's one of the most important arteries going through our city. That's how you get from north to east in the city. So we have to find ways to lessen the traffic flow by diverting the commercial traffic onto areas in the commercial districts. The Route 1 off-ramp would be an important thing, as well as developing the roads in the Coalport so that these large vehicles and the traffic flow can be lessened and less dangerous. Thank you for entertaining my question. My answer.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. The next person is Miss Williams, Jennifer Williams.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. So as a council person, one thing right off the bat is I would take the initiative and not just rely on our city and our county to communicate with each other. I'd try to, without getting in the way of any established relationships, try to take those relationships and build upon them. We need to get our county to take more responsibility for the roads that run through our city, and also to get our city to really take its responsibility and the same, but also get those funding dollars, get those agreements to have them partner together, bring in the state with the state roads that come through. And we need to get on these roads and take care of them as fast as possible. Because without everyone working together, whether you see it on 206, which becomes South Broad Street in our city, or the off-ramps from Route 1, Brunswick Avenue, etc., going into Lawrence and the Lawrence Circle, Brunswick Circle rather, we need to make sure that we're coordinating but getting resources.
Lost your.
We
Sorry.
lost your audio, Jennifer.
Not sure if that was us. Okay.
The roads are more stable. The roads are paved, etc. That should be not anything that is different for a Trentonian to experience in our own city. And I'll close with this. Last night, I spent some time going through all the particular intersections and areas that East Trenton Collaborative had in its survey, because I'd seen them a lot during the daytime. But when you're particularly going down North Clinton, from the police station all the way to where basically it's terminus, every single intersection basically does not have any crosswalk lines whatsoever, let alone a raised crosswalk. And how many of these street lights are out? It's unfathomable. But that situation lies in the rest of the ward, particularly in that part of the ward. Right now, there's a huge pothole at the intersection of Girard and St. Joe's. I don't know how long it's been there. I've reported it. But just like there's a sinkhole on Pearl Street, these things stay and they happen for month after month. And we need to make sure we have a city that's responsive to everything from potholes to things like bollards where at the end of intersections, or signs that will be clearly telling people you can't park here to the corner. And everything that I saw in that survey was very much a thing that the city could reasonably do, and it's something the city should do, and nothing was unreasonable. As someone who at the age of 12 actually was part of marching in my neighborhood in the East Ward to get a no turn on red signs and ordinance for the three corners of Trenton at the intersection of Hamilton and Olden, I know firsthand how that needs to be done and what it takes to be done at sometimes. And hopefully it won't take the citizens of the North Ward and East Trenton to have to march in the streets to get these things happen. But that's the role of council. We can definitely push the city, and I plan to use the bully pulpit of my position as council person to make these changes happen, and I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you. The next person we have is Mr. Allah.
Yes, to a degree, I would echo most of what's already been said. Different areas require different things when it comes to safety and that whole traffic thinking how it's set up. Remember, a lot of the roads that run through the city of Trenton are based on an older design. So we definitely have to look into some zoning capabilities and really go hard at it, and then look at it from a budgeting perspective also, because we know that there are department heads that can make things happen quickly than they can in some areas than in other areas. One thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is you get some residents that have a lot of complaints about their streets being unpaved, going unpaved for a long time. You also have issues with water pipes that's under that street that need to be paved. So we don't want to jump the gun too quickly and pave a street and then have to go right back out there and tear the street up to deal with the pipes under. So it's a twofold thing. You know, we can't have it both ways. We have to make sure residents are educated about the area that they live in. And to a degree, we're going to have to kind of eat it up for a while, because things like that take time. There are surveys that's been done. I remember getting out and talking to one of the, I guess there was a county person that was directing traffic because some paving was going on. And he said, you know, Trenton is one of those areas where there's not a lot you can do because things are very close together. And we've had development in certain areas. You get into a situation now where the way schools are situated on some of the intersections in the North Ward, you create traffic backup. So that means we have to be collaborating with law enforcement. Residents can't have it both ways. You know, you have traffic backed up for a whole, almost a half a mile on Brunswick Avenue when school is letting out. You go further up on Brunswick Avenue, the same situation where you get into that issue that's coming out of that eastern part of the North Ward, coming off of Mulberry Street up to Brunswick Avenue. It's a major issue. So again, we have to look at it from a zoning perspective and continuously educate the residents in how, you know, they can stop wanting to push so hard at city council saying, get this done, and bring the county to the table and see how we can, you know, spread some things out. But that's one area that's going to be tough. Just be honest. It's going to be tough because it's not a lot you can do when there's so few areas that allow large trucks to come into these recycling areas. Deliveries have to be made. So I think that's I know that's a collaborative effort with law enforcement more, making sure that traffic is not backed up, making sure that the safety issue with our children to and from school, it's going to be one of those tough areas, and we have to work together as city council to make sure we're getting all of the sightings of how this is happening in certain parts of that North Ward. And it just so happens that the North Ward covers a major artery that comes in from Turnpike, 129, 29, Route 1, Olden Avenue. Definitely have to be a collaborative effort. We got to we might have to do it every quarter, be looking at that. How can we redirect some of that stuff that's going on there? Because they're not going to build anything new. And if we ain't looking at it from a budget perspective, it's going to be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allard. Next, we have Mr. Cherry.
As you'll notice, one of the common theme of my campaign is collaboration and involving residents in what is being done and decisions that we make. My biggest contribution is to just serve as an unwavering advocate, for you and the community. There are several of the my colleague candidates or other candidates have mentioned traffic calming and street safety methods, like things like speed bumps and speed cushions and speed tables, diverters, pavement materials, flashing lights, signage, crosswalks and crossing personnel, police enforcement of the speed ordinances and safety rules is critical. And as one of the other candidates mentioned, each neighborhood has sometimes a little different challenge. what we want to do is, again, work with the residents, work with the different regulatory entities and policing entities to come up with a plan that's going to address the needs in the specific neighborhoods, which is why I've been talking to you so much and been out there so often. My job is to ensure that your voices are going to be heard, and that if we need to amend or strengthen something, that it's done, that we take that back to the administration, and sound policies and processes are developed in coordination with the administration based on what the residents have shared. I mean, ETC has done a really outstanding job in providing some very specific recommendations, and as a part of the study that you've done. And there needs to be a conversation regarding the implementation of some of those recommendations. I don't know if that conversation has occurred, but if it hasn't, it should. And if it had occurred in the past, then we need to revisit it and ensure that some of those things are actually implemented. But again, my contribution is to be an advocate. And I'm from Selma, Alabama. We marched before, so if I have to march in the streets with you, we'll march in the streets again.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry. The next one we have the at-large. We have Miss Terry Wilson.
Yes. So I sit on the county planning board, and I formerly sat on the Trenton Zoning Board of Adjustments. So I get to see the research, the community input. I get to see how city department heads have to work hand in hand and work together to find out what will work best for the city, while all of those in charge are advocating for the best for the community. Whether it's a new development that's coming, and we do expect to have some redevelopment in the city of Trenton, we need to make sure that we are taking into consideration the fabrics of our neighborhoods, the concerns that we have. For the communities that are already in place, we need to be aware of the issues that we have. We need to make sure that we are listening to the voice of community residents and making sure that things are getting done. I understand the populations and the habits of Trentonians, and I am able to use that to advocate for projects from the Mercer County Planning Board that come before me, and I can advocate for the city of Trenton. When I sat on the Trenton Zoning Board of Adjustments, I was able to ask anyone who was trying to come into our city to take over a property, reuse a property, how does your business or your idea fit into the fabric of the neighborhood? Are you mindful of the habits of the residents? Are you aware of any concerns that they may have? So I totally support increasing modifications and safety enhancements to our communities. And I think that we should also remind residents that the issues that we have are sometimes brought on by unsafe drivers too, right? So I'm always looking around at the total issues in the city of Trenton, and I'm finding out that we are more densely populated. Our population has increased from 80,000 people to, I believe, 90,000 people. So we have to share the role. We have to be mindful. We have to be aware of the layouts. And we definitely need to make sure that we as council persons are listening to your concerns and advocating to do whatever it is that we can do to make your voice heard and make your concerns a reality, get them eradicated by fixing what's necessary as we can. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Yasminelli, I'm probably saying it wrong.
It's okay.
Ms.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for that question. And I want to make sure I answer the correct question. I know it's about the improving the traffic safety. And you know, as a community person and as an educator, I have learned the importance, you know, of building these strong and meaningful relationships, which in turn will allow us the opportunity to develop some partnerships. And hopefully these partnerships will open up access to more resources that can be used here in our city. And, you know, in addition to that, you know, just developing those positive relationships with officials from the state and county, we must advocate and hold our officials from all over accountable, because Trenton is usually oftentimes neglected. And why are we, you know, we are the capital of the city. So I believe that some resources should be allocated in this area, because I believe it's more in need than most other places. You know, Trenton can no longer have such a low traffic safety rating. That we have the most dangerous intersection here in the US, if I'm not mistaken, and that's 129 in Layler, where many people and the residents are extremely, you know, we've lost several lives there. The residents are upset, devastated. They see nonstop those residents that are in that senior building constantly see someone passing away at that intersection. So like I said, it's a main concern for our residents. It's a main concern for us. It should be a main concern for us as council, because well-maintained roads are safer and an important factor in preventing accidents also. So just using that intersection as a reference, I know that there's a stoplight there and they have crossing guards, but yet the crossing guards have also been killed and hit by cars also in that intersection. So just being more proactive, like I said earlier, and possibly putting more stoplights ahead of time before we come down onto Layla Street, just in that particular area. And I also wanted to, before I backtrack, I want to say thank you to all the work that you have done. I've seen the pictures that you guys have submitted or showed us with the concerns with the crosswalks and stuff like that. So we need to start investing more in high quality material for, filling our potholes, providing visible crosswalks. I know for me personally, I have gone through several brakes and tires, just by riding through the streets of Trenton. So these things are important to all of us, and helping, to create some solution to it. Let's create a policy that would allow for specific areas to be addressed in a timely fashion or a timely manner, and communicating this to our people and allowing them to be a part of the conversation, so that I think Merkel, Mr. Cherry said, they've marched in Selma, and I think bringing our people apart and educating them to be a part of the demands that we need from county and state levels will help us to improve some of our traffic safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Okay, the next one we have is Ms. Edwards.
Hi, thank you. Great question. I wanted to address the same exact thing that Yaz just said, that intersection of 129 and Layler, just referencing that, because it is one of the most, if not the most dangerous intersection in the nation, according to the last article I saw. It's not a difficult fix. And the only thing that we need is the state buy-in, the state to pay attention, because that is their road. 129 is their road, and get them to do something about it. So over the last couple of years, from the crossing guard being killed to several others being killed in hit and runs, and most recently this year, one of my friends I went to high school with, Devin, was trying to cross the street and someone was running that light, and they hit him and dragged him for several feet. And by the grace of God, he survived. And ever since then, I've been advocating with the state, with the state to make the proper changes, and was suggesting things. So I know they did do surveys. They did, talk about making a land bridge for people to go over the highway, but simply just letting each side go one at a time, and then stopping all traffic and let pedestrians go was something I suggested. And I'm happy to say that, and not just from my advocacy, but from the outcry of the entire community that LD 15, Legislative District 15, that's Assemblywoman Verlena Reynolds Jackson, Senator Shirley Turner, and Assemblyman Anthony Borelli, they advocated with the Department of Transportation. So now they are making the necessary improvements at that intersection, and they just released that information. So they're, doing longer traffic signals and things like that. So like echoing some of the things that the candidate said earlier, advocating and holding the county and state officials responsible and accountable for their roads. This is a collaborative effort. It will take all of us to work together to get things done. Like Devon Allah said, that with the replacement of the lead pipes, the streets will be torn up and they will have to be repaved. So we will be paying double the work. But as city council members, we can push for quicker processing times to get these lead pipes replaced so that we can repave our roads, so that we can paint these crosswalks on there and can add these speed bumps on there. There is a process. And as city council members, we can do our due diligence to make sure that these things are happening in a timely manner, especially around these parks and especially around the schools. Like with my daughters, when I'm dropping them off, it's so scary just to cross the street and go into the school. Even the parents are flying down the street. And some of them are side roads. They're not emergency routes, so they are eligible for speed bumps. So looking into resources with funding from the other states, other levels of government to see where we can pull some grants from to put speed bumps down and put crosswalks with flashing lights. And I love all of the suggestions that ETC has where you identify all of the problem areas. So I would definitely get behind that as a city council member, because that's vitally important, especially I know this is outside of East Ward, but Greg Grant Park, right in front of there, that is one of the most busiest parks that I could think of in the city of Trenton. And that's where my daughters play. So I'm very familiar with it. And I know that Assemblywoman Verlena Reynolds Jackson, it has her eyes on that park right now. So she's looking for people to get kind of like a consensus from our opinions to see what our suggestions would be. Is this a problem? So it is on their radar. So as city council members, what we can do is continue to advocate on behalf of ETC and the other residents of the city to our state legislators to make sure that they're aware of what's going on and see if they can pull some resources to help on the roads that they own, and do the same with the county as well.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Thank you, all council members. I'm going to turn the next segment over to Faith Ann.
All right. Thank you so much, candidates. And next, I can pass it to Faith Ann Pearson, who has a few follow-up questions for traffic safety related issues.
Welcome, and I hope everybody is having a healthy day. Traffic safety is also an important aspect of our parks in the neighborhood. Many of the families in our neighborhood walk to the parks and have reported several safety concerns they have with the roads around the parks. It's going to be just one question. How will you help support the Recreation, Natural Resource, and the Cultural Department of the city to carry out the maintenance, safety improvements, and repairs to the parks in our neighborhood? Starting out with Tawanda Wilson.
Hi, yes, thanks for the question. So again, we need to be aware of the concerns and the problem issues and the problem areas. We need to address those if we can. We know that a lot of things require funding, and a lot of our funding to get things done comes from city property taxes, right? So we need to make sure that we are doing things to, number one, increase our revenues here in the city. That means our budget, so that we can get the things fixed that we need in our community, so that we can provide the services on a level that is acceptable for the people in our community. I will continue to look at every petition that comes before me. I will continue to prioritize what needs to be done. And our parks are a great source of stress relief, and they're a great source of activity and safe recreation for our children. So we really want to make sure that we have our finger on our assets and make sure that they are in such a status so that people can enjoy them freely, so that they can enjoy them safely, so that they can enjoy them as frequently as they need to. And if there's anything that comes across my desk, I will make sure that I am bringing the concerns of the residents there and allocating the funds to give our city the services that we need. Thank you so much for the question.
You're welcome. Yasminelli Gonzalez, please.
Yes, thank you for the question also. Obviously, my passion is with our children. And so when we think about recreation in the parks, in the sidewalks, leading up to these parks, it's important for us to have well-maintained roads, that are safer and important. It's an important factor in preventing, just accidents for them. As I'm walking through the city streets, I see some of the sidewalks as these, and we have to think that some of our children may not go to a park. So when they're running up and down these streets, it's unfathomable just to think of what they're going across. So our children run and play on these streets, and I think it's extremely important that we continue to fight for those funds and that money that we can invest in our improving our safety, improving the safety repairs that are needed in our parks and our neighborhoods. The sidewalks and roads near the parks. Obviously, we need to. Our budget must include hiring and enough people to address those issues. And even just walking the streets, I've noticed that a lot of them also come from some of the trees that are located near our sidewalks. So they're lifting up, which is causing a lot of bumps in our sidewalks. So these things are extremely important to address. And obviously, we need to make sure that those funds are there, that they can properly equip those departments so that we can address some of those issues in a timely fashion. I know for me, I'm a part of the Trenton South Ward Neighborhood Association, and we have also taken pictures and we've been fighting for certain things to be improved. And I just feel like it should be done more in a timely fashion. And hopefully as a council person, we can be able to work together to make, slowly progress our city in those areas where we'll have safer streets and parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Josie Edwards, please.
Hi. So parks are our safe havens. I just want to start off with saying that for not only children, but adults too. Just for them to have somewhere to go outside of their neighborhoods and run around as much as they want, and they don't really have to worry about traffic or other safety hazards. Adults too, just simply having somewhere to go instead of loitering in front of stores or in front of residential areas, creating a noise nuisance. A lot of people complain about that. And how I will assist the administration is simply by advocating, identifying, these problem areas, these parks that are run down, because we do have a lot of them. And I have been. I've been, for example, working with Lakeisha Sutton. She's a local basketball player. She has been working with the administration and others too from the community to identify parks around the city that has basketball courts that needs to be replaced. So I've been assisting and advocating with identifying those parks too, and advocating for them to be added to the list, because there are several that are still not on the list. For example, Mama Street Park, that's somewhere that one of the places that I used to play at as a child. that people don't even really know it exists because it's tucked so tightly in between the housing over there that it goes neglected often. So just identifying those areas and working with, like, I can't say this enough, collaborating with the state and county. They have programs and they have funding for parks and recreation. So the county has a program. Commissioner Sam Frisbee was telling me a couple of years ago when I did a call for peace rally and march through Stuyvesant, and we went down Oakland. And there's a park next to a liquor store in there. And the problem is the liquor store is right next to the park. So the park has absolutely nothing. And it's still a city-owned park. And they still use it from time to time throughout the year. But unfortunately, the children over there have nowhere to play, and there's signs everywhere that says no basketball, no bikes, but there's no park. So the county has a program that funds new parks that didn't exist there before. So working with them to find some type of loophole or see if they can rewrite that language to include parks that exist that have been dilapidated for X amount of years. So, and then also working with the state. So for example, the Department of Community Affairs, they have a local recreation improvement grant, the LRIG. This is for recreation centers. This is for local stadiums, local parks to help out with all kinds of things, playgrounds, pools, community centers, bike trails, you name it. This falls under the purview of that program. So tapping into resources that already exist in our county and state governments and bringing that to Trenton. So it's just a matter of city council in tandem with the administration, because a lot of people say, oh, this is administration jobs, but council has the power to introduce ordinances and resolutions that will benefit the city, to introduce these programs like land banking, like, the APRA, which I know we'll get into later. So, like I said, tapping into the resources that exist and advocating for some type of structural changes for the programs that exist that may not benefit, that the city may not be able to tap into because of the language. Thank you.
Vicki, thank you. Next is starting with the North Ward, and it is Jennifer Williams. Are you muted, Jennifer?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So right off the bat, we need to make sure that resources are allocated, that they're budgeted ahead of time. And I think we need to be a good bit more proactive in making sure that we're maintaining our parks and the different facilities that our Department of Recreation, Natural Resources, and Culture handle. I know as a kid, we actually had to go to Junior 2, and that's where we were able to interact with the counselors with the program, and it was wonderful. That's when they wore blue polo shirts back then. And one of the things I want to see going forward is that this department does get all the funding that it needs, that we also maybe get the city, our administration and council can encourage this and definitely advise and consent the heck out of it to get the city to really get a grant writer to focus on this. There's so much money out there from the government, from private corporations, from nonprofit corporations that I think we should try to get some more help for our city to get these funds to come in, because there are folks out there are businesses and organizations that want to help cities like Trenton enhance what we have in our natural beauty, the parks, etc. Certainly the United States Tennis Association with the facility that they built over in Calwater Park, that has been a huge difference maker. And I'd like to see something similar for one of the fastest growing sports in America, which is lacrosse. Trenton has a Trenton Bridge Lacrosse program, which is to help youth try to get involved with lacrosse in a very positive way. Great exercise, great growing sport, something to do. And I think that's something that we should look at long-term, just as much as with the roads that go through these parks, around these parks, giving people access. That is incredibly important, particularly for children and seniors. But also, we had recently an initiative to create a skateboard park in the city, and unfortunately, that was not brought forth and voted upon by City Council. It was not supported. That's something I would very much wholeheartedly support because it's an easy activity for young people to do. I know my son very much enjoys it, and there's been a lot of great events over at the Roebling building where Art on Night was held. That they have skating throughout the winter, the Trenton Freedom Skate. And we should encourage these things, make more alliances with community groups, with different groups within the city who want to maybe take a part of our parks, adopt it, beautify it, make it safer. But also, we need to get more identification of parks that are missing equipment, that do have equipment that goes into disrepair, whether it's a playground or anything else. And finally, I think we need to find resources to hire more park rangers because a safe park, whether it's having a ranger to make sure that everything's fine, there's no undesirables, no crimes going on, but also being those eyes and ears for when we need to replace equipment. And quite frankly, if the Trenton Police Department, when they go and patrol different areas, let's try to get our officers to maybe visit the parks. And also the same thing, if they see something, make sure they say something to our parks area. And then also finally, I think us as citizens, we need to step up a little bit and need to have a more direct line to getting things fixed from the Parks Department and Recreational Natural Resources and Culture. Because if they don't hear from us, more than one or two people, it's like that thing where the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But we also have to have the city support us and encourage us to be a partner. It can't be just upon the citizens to take care of everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Divine Allah.
First and foremost, I plan to be a direct human resource in that area. I use the parks regularly. My expertise in health and wellness and exercise and fitness. I would definitely advocate for what many people know as parks, but we want to upgrade to outside interactive learning facilities. So parks can be more than just a place where people come sit and maybe chill out, but there has to be some type of interactive thing in our parks. I've seen them around the country, even around the globe. You have some parks that have fitness clusters where while the children are playing, you have the parents are out there, they're engaging in some type of exercise, or they're engaging in some type of interactive thing with other parents who may be at the park, but it's all centered around health, it's centered around learning, it's centered around wellness. And, we have to understand, especially here in the North Ward, some of our parks are situated very different than parks in other regions in the county. Some of our parks are hidden, they're pushed back, and, they do draw certain ire that could be negative. So again, we have to upgrade how security is, centered around those areas. And we have to, again, let residents know for sure, this is your park. They have to be involved in how the park is governed, how the park is dealt with when it comes to safety. If you know that children are at this park, you have to be those eyes and ears too. Because I've been at one park that I call my office, the Lipinski Park over here off of Brunswick Avenue. Is hidden behind the Hellingful Hospital or the Capitol Health. Very rarely do you even see a police car. It's rare. And cars speed down that street. So a direct human resource, I would stress, if we don't get street bumps that stay there permanently, we can have times of the day where you bring those temporary street bumps out there. And that's something, again, as a direct human resource, the parks being an extension of city council because our children are there, we have to just make it more of a concerted effort and not just leave it in the hands of folks who don't treat the hidden parks like they would a park like a Cat Water Park. but all of it is important. I just think that coming into city council, we have to make sure that we look at all of these areas as just important and as an extensions of our city council office. Whatever senior, that's an extension. And I mean from a direct human resource. How can I be of service directly? And since that's my heritage.
Thank you, Mr.
I think
Allah.
he just went on mute.
Oh, he went on mute?
Mr. Allah, we're having trouble hearing you right now.
Oh.
Okay, now I think you're good. Sorry about that.
Okay. Not to belabor the point, just, we have to strive to be direct human resources to that particular area when it comes to parks and recreation. And another thing, even some of the equipment at the parks, we talk about lead in the pipes when it comes to the water. Some of these parks have like outdated play areas, chipping paint, and children, the children are going to play, but that opens up another can of worms that has to be looked at from parks and recreation. That's also public property. It's public. So we have to make sure as city council members, seeing it with our eyes, direct access to it, and bring that information to department heads and say, hey, we have to get on this.
Thank you very much. Myrtle Cherry, please.
I think you're muted, Mr. Cherry, if you're speaking.
We're going up on.
Yeah, it would help if I unmuted myself, right? I was a part of helping to develop the Trenton Open Space Inventory. I developed the first park ranger program in the city of Trenton that came in as part of my efforts and our efforts. One of the things, and their parks are really something that you should look to the residents in a specific neighborhood. And there's this debate sometimes about whether parks should be centralized or they should be neighborhood parks. And I think that neighborhood parks are important. They don't always have to be active where activities are occurring, because parks can be passive places for relaxation and just reading and enjoying yourself also. I will share that as a former administrator in recreation and parks, I'm familiar with the necessary equipment and maintenance requirements for safe operations of parks. I was credentialed as a certified safety and liability professional by the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association, and I still retain much of that knowledge. And this will serve me well in discussions with the administration and key players in establishing sound practices. And I've demonstrated in the past my support for our leisure and cultural facilities by prioritizing those things in our in the budget request. We can work with organizations, and several candidates have mentioned a variety of organizations. One of the main funders of our open spaces is Green Acres, and we've been able to solicit quite a bit of funding for different parks and for park renovations, park developments, and park improvements through this organization. It's certainly one that we should continue to work with and partner with. I have two young men now who grew up in the city, and they scraped their knees and scraped their elbows and fell down and were picked up in our parks. And they are important. They're important to neighborhoods, but the discussion should be held with the residents in those respective neighborhoods as to what they want to see in terms of open space. Thank you.
You're welcome. And now last is Algernon Ward.
Thank you for the question. And it's an important one. And I want to emphasize that as your representative on city council, it's my job to bring the issues that are important to you before city council and bring the resources from the city to address that problem. I'm easy to find. I'm in the phone book. You can look me up at any time, and people often do. And they come over my house and drink my coffee and drink up all my sodas while they unload what issues are if they're important. And I have to say that my door is always open, and it will remain so as your representative city council. But the question was transportation around parks. Of course, each park has its own unique challenges, and listening to the residents will tell you what the problems are, and then you apply the solutions. Now, a lot of times we can bring things to the city administration and tell them these are issues, but then we're putting a line of other projects that they might see as a priority. And sometimes the city absolutely fails to take advantage of all the resources that are available. We lost $11 million for roads because of a lack of an application at one point. There are those kind of administrative problems that city council has to deal with and make sure that the priorities of the people are appropriate through the budgeting process. They always say that a budget, it really tells you what your priorities are. Because if you put the money into it, then that's what your priorities are. But recreation is, of course, important, along with education, health, transportation, safety. All of those things have to be dealt with, not one at a time, all at the same time, and out of the same pot of money. But the way to find your way through those kind of questions is to listen to the people. They will tell you what's important to them. So it's been my pleasure, actually, doing the canvassing and walking around and talking to people, because they tell you what the issues are, and they expect for you to act upon them. The good thing about my candidacy for North Ward Council is that I just don't come around during election time. I've been working in between the election times. I've been working when there's no election. When I see an issue, I don't believe in that they should fix this or they should fix that. I roll up my sleeves and get involved myself to the degree that I can. I can't wave my hand and fix everything, but I certainly will work with well-meaning people on working on any variety of problems that confront our city. So as your representative, I'm going to make you proud of the work that I do at City Council, and you'll know that that's my councilman right there when you see me going about the business of being a council person. And as far as fixing the transportation issues or safety issues near the park, when the people bring that to my attention, of course, I'm going to work on it to their satisfaction. So thank you for the question and allow me an opportunity to respond.
Thank you very much. We're going to skip the question about the traffic safeties, the traffic audit, and we're going to go straight now on to the governance with Veronica Davis.
And real quick, just for the sake of time, I'm going to be monitoring this pretty close. So again, candidates, please try to keep your answers brief if possible. But thank you all for everything, for all your time so far.
Thank you. Try to make this as quick as possible. The abandoned properties issues greatly contribute to crime and safety concerns in our city. Many residents have voiced their concerns with the abandoned properties throughout the neighborhood and the danger they present. This is a constant topic that is brought up at elections, public forum, and city council meetings. The current administration is not using APRA, and the city council is not supporting efforts to buy and rehabilitate abandoned properties. I know firsthand that my neighbor has submitted an application for a city-owned property over a year with several attempts for a response from City Hall with no avail. I personally address the issue at hand of an abandoned property privately owned by City Hall, per se, behind my house. It is vacant, decaying, and even a tree is growing in it. Vegetation is growing into my yard and garage and wall and roof. The owner has transpired over 20 years ago. I have contacted City Hall several times, received a runaround. My questions to you is 3 of them, and I know you've read them. What additional tools and approaches would you support and move along the process to help address these abandoned properties, both private and city-owned? 2, how will you work with the administration on this issue? And 3, will you use and support APRA, Abandoned Properties Rehabilitation Act? And we will start with at-large, Ms. Edwards, please.
All right, I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible because I know it's getting late. I just wanted to say that I am well aware of the Abandoned Properties Rehabilitation Act, and I'm a strong advocate for the implementation of it for the city of Trenton. Property owners, both investors and owner occupants alike, should be held accountable for the condition of their properties. Once a property fits the description of blight, it should be addressed immediately, as they quickly become hazardous to the community in many ways, often inviting unwanted attention from squatters and people who suffer from drug and other substance abuse. So the way the city operates now with simply fining owners is not working, and therefore we need to take stronger measures to clean up our city. The APRA would be perfect for Trenton, as we have an overwhelming number of blighted properties, both occupied and vacant. This is actually a part of my mission, and as a private resident and as a candidate for city council as well. As a council member, I would introduce this to the docket along with my colleagues to vote on, as Newark City Council did, along with land banking, as I understand the importance of these programs and their benefits to the community. Newark has millions of dollars in redevelopment and new development projects right now due to their progressive economic changes, like the APRA and the land banking programs. The land banking program identifies blighted and vacant city-owned property and puts them in a pool to be sold in such a way that it eliminates the wait for a decision from city council, which is often a hindrance of economic development and property sales in our city, is that we have to wait for it to be put onto the docket and wait for it to be approved by city council, which oftentimes we see so much adversity and therefore the sales never even happen. So as we know, City Council has not been forthcoming in their decisions for many things that are proposed or introduced, let alone the allowance for the land banking ordinance to be added to the docket for their decision. The lack of efforts from City Council has caused an even further economic decline for Trenton. Every neighborhood in the city suffers when there is an abandoned property on their street, from the decline in property value, unwanted attention the property attracts, health and safety issues from dilapidated properties falling all over the ground.
Sorry to interrupt.
And to the lack of revenue. So therefore, I would just work as a city council member to make sure I'm voting responsibly to fight the blight in the city.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. We'll now have Ms. Terry Wilson, please.
Yes, this is a great question and is very dear to my heart. So yes, I would support the Abandoned Properties Rehabilitation Act. And then I would first seek to look at the root to determine how this problem has arose and to see how we can solve it and make sure that it doesn't arise again. We cannot ignore or brush over the fact that Trenton has been disinvested in based on redlining and discrimination. Poverty has been purposefully concentrated here. We must first acknowledge and admit this fact, right? Trentonians work 2 and sometimes 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and at times they are barely succeeding at it, and some fall short. This again is because of discriminate hiring and firing practices and low-wage jobs. So not for lack of skill set, but for greed. These factors put an unfair burden on a minority of Trenton residents who are homeowners, and it leaves some people out of homeownership opportunities. I would like to see us tackle the discrimination by banks when offering opportunities to Trentonians seeking to buy and or rehabilitate homes here. That would be a win-win for everyone. So we have banks here, and they say if you see banks in the city or in a town, then that shows that there is success. Well, I see banks here, and I would like for them to release some funding and for Trentonians who rent to go ahead and have access to buy some of these properties. And lastly, I will work with the administration by reviewing policies and offering suggestions to make this mutually beneficial for Trenton, Trentonians, and businesses that are headquartered here. I will do more research on the Abandoned Properties and Rehabilitation Acts. The things that make sense, we'll go ahead and incorporate, and we'll stand behind and advocate for the city of Trenton and the residents to have fair opportunities and access to it. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. At this time, we'll also ask Ms. Gonzalez, please.
Yes, thank you for that question. I think this is a concern for everyone here. Most of us are residents, and most of us on this call. We all know that, abandoned, vacant, and dilapidated structures, pose many risks for our city. They invite crime, they harbor the pests and rodents, and, it's just an eyesore for most people. When we turn around this trend and the vacant homes can be fixed and occupied by new tax-paying residents, commercial properties can house new businesses, and community organizations can work together to help combat the failing structures that can become a beautiful neighborhood. We want to build our city back up one house at a time. And currently, I know our city has the Flight the Blight program, which we know they're building and repairing homes throughout each ward. Although it may not be 100 houses all at one time, but they're slowly doing it. And I think we need to continue to support those efforts and utilize the APRA funds. Voting against that it just doesn't make any sense to me. These abandoned properties are hazardous, and they serves as a place for drug activity to occur. And like I said, the rodents, I know of many things that we're working on in South Ward, where we have houses that there's an elderly woman living next to this building that has been abandoned and utilized for different drug activities for over 10 years now. And at some point, we have to be able to hold our landlords accountable. Whoever owns these properties needs to be fined, and aggressively fined, and make sure that these things do not continue to occur in our city. It's about our safety and the quality of life. And most of us, it's a mental state. We don't want to walk outside and see abandoned buildings in every corner, every two houses, especially out in East Trenton, especially where I grew up at. We see a lot of houses. Walnut Avenue has several, Chambers. Chambers has many of them. So we just need to aggressively address and hold our landlords accountable, and take advantage of the funds that are needed to allocate towards this effort as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Now we will go to North Ward, and we'll start with Mr. Cherry, please. Mr. Cherry, are you muted?
Hello?
Okay. Now we can hear you.
Hey, I'm sorry, folks. I'm going to have to step away, and I apologize. It's no disrespect, but I just got something that I have to take care of. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be a part of this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry.
Thank you. Pray everything goes well. With that note, we will go to Mr. Ward, please.
Abandoned houses is a blight on our city in many different ways. Not only does it look bad, they're very dangerous. And what many people don't realize is the largest slumlord in the city is the city. It owns over 3,000 of these abandoned properties. Now, in the last 4-year term, I proposed a code enforcement ordinance for landlords. If they had an empty house, in the first year they had to pay a certain amount. They had to bring the house up to code. It started working very well, but we run immediately in a problem when the inspections department stopped enforcing those codes because there's not enough inspectors. So right now, the last time I looked at that program, we had over $15 million of uncollected fines that should be put into the city coffers based on the violation of that ordinance. So first thing, you would have to have housing inspectors. The APRA is, of course, a wise program that we would take full advantage of in order to deal with the rehabilitation of the properties. In fact, I'm working with the Trenton Housing Authority myself on the Choice Neighborhood Program here in the North Ward, where we're working with each homeowner and renter to access monies that would give each homeowner $20,000 to fix up the front of their houses. I signed up most people in the 600 block of Martin Luther King Boulevard as a pilot program, and I'm very proud of it. It's going to change the face of the program. I also want to introduce you to a concept called a property swap. If you're a homeowner in the city of Trenton, when a new housing development is put together, that a homeowner who's been paying taxes for years should use their existing property as a down payment on the new property in the new development. It would be cheaper for them. The property developer would have a guaranteed tenant for his property, and it would most importantly keep a community intact. We won't be gentrified. The people who live in this area are devoted to this area, can stay in this area and have a new house. And I would begin with the people that live in the industrial zones. They would be a higher priority so that we would take those people first and begin to move them into the new houses and the housing developments. And the abandoned houses that can be fixed, they should be fixed and put back on the market and used the Trenton Community Credit Union. The banks that you can't get money from, we stop asking them. We have our own money. We use the Trenton Community Credit Union to support people who are trying to get mortgages and start businesses by using our own money, putting our money instead of banks that will not loan us money back, put it into the credit union where we can support ourselves using our own dollars. And banks have to, in fact, support.
3 minutes. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. I was just going to talk about the Community Reinvestment Act, but thank you for the question. And I think we can turn this thing around.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. At this time, we would please speak to Ms. Williams.
Thank Ms. Veronica. Regarding abandoned properties, would like to work towards more initiatives to tear down abandoned, dilapidated properties in our city. Particularly, there's a lot in the East Ward. One home in particular, I spoke to a voter who lived next door, and the property's abandoned, boarded up. Back of it is falling down, and she has to deal with snakes and rodents coming into her cellar. That's a common story around the whole city, let alone particularly our North Ward. Across the street from my house, we have two properties that have been abandoned for at least 30 years. I'm told probably into the mid 80s. And whether it's one owner to another, one developer to another, no progress has been made. It's been boarded up. We've had homeless people come in, start fires in the middle of July. And, you know, as far as drug trade, et cetera, it's a common thing. I've even heard in part of the North Ward where we have an abandoned firehouse that is contributing to crime because no one's there. It's not maintained. It hasn't been maybe sold to some folks who might want to turn into loft apartments or in business development. And because of that, they have prostitution and other issues going on. So with the new city council, we also have to make sure that we approve grants that the city gets to actually tear down these properties. The city recently came across grant money that would have budgeted $500,000 towards tearing down abandoned properties, and city council did not approve it. That's something I believe will change with the next city council, and it's something that I would vote for heartily. So regarding using APRA, we do need to use this wherever possible, wherever it's appropriate, wherever it's justified, and wherever it is legally correct. I know there are some concerns with some historical properties, but I believe that we can address this and be able to use this particular act to help us with the very, very long delinquent properties that go back more than 10 years, 20 years, some. And certainly, I'd love to see the ones in my area on the North Ward get taken care of. To help move this along, City Council, we can't force the mayor or the administration to necessarily utilize the act, but we certainly can fight for that, and that's something we are going to need to do. I wouldn't want to see something have to go to court regarding the use of the act, but we are at the point where I think hopefully with the administration and its goals, if it continues on or a new administration comes in, that we will be able to address these issues of abandoned properties because they truthfully are holding our city down and creating unhealthy living conditions for everyone living near them. I will also totally support the new program, Fight the Blight, and it's going to be a great one so we can start licensing.
We're getting up to the 3 minutes. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, sorry. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And last but not least, we'll have Mr. Allah, please.
Well, that 3 minutes is something, ain't it?
Yeah.
This is that question. It cuts across some various. It's a serious one. Definitely, we have to understand that there is a specific duty, role, and responsibility of City Council that allows us to do investigations. I came across a situation where something is dumped on a local street here in North Ward, and the person who dumped it is from Lakewood, New Jersey. Then there's another situation where somebody dumped it and they were from Woodbridge, New Jersey. As City Council representative, I would stress the ward consistently give reports on things like this that are found based on our investigations. Again, direct human resources. People bring the individual city council members these issues. So as an individual, a direct access resource, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing that diligence and going myself to look at these properties. I know the city has a list, but when you see it with your own eyes and you see how some of these properties are just totally dilapidated, they should be torn down quick. So then you get into the issue of housing inspection. We need to create deputy positions. So if the housing inspection department has a low number of folks who can get out there, we have to create deputy positions, bring in more people. The city has a budget where we can hire deputy inspectors to get out there and consistently be on this so reports can be made and given to, and then aggressively bring those who are in charge of these properties, besides the city of Trenton. Some of these properties are privately owned. Aggressively bring these people to some type of enforcement. If it takes, again,
We lost your audio.
to know that we are aggressively going after the situation and using everything that we need to reinvest and bring some of these issues, especially the abandoned properties, bring these things, to an end. Because, again, Trenton is small. Some of the houses are tight in the North Ward. If you start tearing down one, those rotors are going to go into that livable house. It creates another type of situation. But again, with our eyes and City Council using the City Council office as a direct extension to deal with that issue, that's how we have to address it. And again, it has to be aggressive. We can't keep letting these things sit, because most of you see some of these houses been sitting for 10, 20, almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're coming up to that 3 minutes, but that sounds perfect timing, it sounds like.
Thank you very much for everybody. I personally thank you. I turn it over to Mr. Kirk, please.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I apologize that we are running a little bit over time. Sounds like we could all be on this for another hour because we all like this stuff. But again, thank you to all the candidates. And I can pass it to our program director, Caitlin Fair, with some concluding words.
Yes, I won't keep you guys long at all. We are over time, but I just want to thank everyone again for coming out. Thank you to the candidates who were able to participate. We do have questionnaires from all of the candidates that were here this evening, I believe, in addition to some questionnaires that were submitted by a few of the candidates who were not able to join us, but did want to answer the questions. So we can link those on our website so that folks who are interested in reading all of the responses in full can access those. And we will also post the recording on our website as well. And I hope everyone has a terrific evening. And thank you again to our committee for facilitating. You guys are so incredible. We're so grateful for you. Yes, let's give them a round of applause. We really could not do any of this without you guys. So we are so incredibly grateful for your hard work and your time that you commit to this. And again, thank you to the candidates for joining us. And, we will see you guys at the polls.
Yes.
Also, please know that
Very much.
please
you,
do know that
everyone.
we have a voter registration event this Saturday. So we will be at the center registering voters, and we will be canvassing in the neighborhood from 1 to 4 to register voters. So if you know anyone who wants to volunteer to help us canvass or who needs to register to vote and would like some help filling out the application, you can send them over to our center from 1 to 4 this Saturday, the 16th.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.